Did you know that you can be arrested for DUI even if you are asleep in your car? That's because in Arizona, it is prohibited to be driving or in actual physical control of a motor vehicle while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. That actual physical control has a lot of factors that will be decided by a jury to decide whether you were actually in physical control of the car if you were in fact asleep. There's a long list of factors that juries are supposed to look at, including where the keys were located, where the driver was located, whether the air conditioning was on, what the road conditions were, and whether the car was operable. So the jury looks at all of that and decides whether this driver was actually in physical control of the vehicle. And the reason that this law exists is because people who are impaired and who might be sleeping in their car or passed out in their car might wake up at any moment and drive their car into the road, be startled, and just drive right into the road and create a problem. It's particularly problematic, and I've seen this multiple times, when the person is passed out behind the wheel with the car in drive and their foot on the brake. So that's happened quite a few times, but I've had other cases where the person was probably using the car for shelter, and then the officer comes up to the window and says, "Are you okay?" And my clients always say, well, then that interaction should end there. As soon as the police officer finds out that I'm okay, they should have to leave, right? Well, yes and no. When they first approach the car, they don't have to have a reason to believe that there was a crime afoot, like they would if they were going to be pulling you over for a traffic violation. Instead, when they're coming up to someone who's sleeping in a car, they're invoking an exception to the warrant requirement, which is the community caretaker exception. And that's because police officers do more than just investigate crime. They're responsible for making sure that people are okay in our community. So if someone's pulled over on the side of the road in the middle of the night with their flashers on, that person might be having a problem with their car, they might be having a medical emergency, and the police officer would be negligent if they didn't go check on that person. We want them to go make sure the guy's okay and doesn't need help. Well, then when the officer approaches the car and says, "Are you okay?" and sees that the dude is high or drunk or disoriented or potentially under the influence, the officer can't just walk away and say, "Okay, you're good." They have to then investigate that to make sure that that person isn't driving, isn't going to drive, or isn't in actual physical control of the vehicle, which is prohibited under Arizona law. So if in that community caretaker function in asking if you're okay, they start to make observations that make them think that this is more than just someone who needs medical attention and might possibly be under the influence, then they can continue to investigate a DUI, and the attorney's probably not going to get that dismissed for a Fourth Amendment violation. So I tell people, we do want people, if you made a mistake and you began to drive after you were under the influence and you realize, man, I shouldn't be driving, absolutely, we want you to pull over. What you need to do, if you are going to be sleeping in your car under any circumstances, what you should do is get in the back seat. But if you unfortunately got into a situation where you were arrested for driving under the influence after you were sleeping in your car or using it for shelter, give me a call. I can take a look at the facts and circumstances surrounding the case, including the body-worn camera and police reports, and identify whether the police in fact exceeded the scope of the community caretaker exception, or if you were charged with any other form of DUI or criminal offense here in Tucson. I'm here to help.